I'm Aslan for TRT World. Many people are questioning whether Europe's voice still matters in international affairs. I sat down with former Swedish Prime Minister Carl Bildt to talk about the declining influence of Europe on the world stage. Carl Bildt, thank you so much for joining us. The US-Iran conflict has entered a new stage, certainly at the beginning of the year. Many people are wondering, where is Europe in this equation? How can Europe try to help and solve this dilemma and this conflict?
Europe has been trying for more than 15 years to work diplomacy on this particular issue to prevent the outbreak of a war between the US and Iran. And it's been fairly close. And Europeans have been trying to save the deal. Whether that will be possible remains to be seen. But the alternative to a deal is a conflict.
And I think very much like in the war, in the Syrian war, a lot of people point towards this conflict now as an example for Europe's declining influence on the world stage. Would you agree with that?
In the sense that we can't decide over what the Americans do. If the Americans want to go to war with Iran, there are limits to what we can do. I'm not certain they want that. But if they want to tear up the agreement, yep, they can obviously do that. Can we safeguard the agreement in spite of that? There are limits to what we can do. But because we are not the world's #1 superpower. But I think it's important that we deploy all of the political and all of the diplomatic resources that we can in order to prevent the outbreak of yet another war in the Middle East. It's not that we lack wars in the Middle East, to put it very mildly.
You were a Swedish Prime Minister, still very much involved in European affairs. Look at Europe today. Is Europe still a factor on the world stage in international affairs?
In some, and in some less. If you look at the last 5 years, and we sort of come to the end of one 5-year cycle and just entered another one, in terms of foreign and security affairs, yep, I think we're losing out somewhat, no question about that. That has to do with external factor, Trump and China and Russia and whatever.
How big of a blow is the upcoming Brexit now? It seems to be a done deal on January 31st.
It's a done deal in the sense that they leave the structures of the European Union. But I mean, they remain in the customs union, the single market and in everything up until the end of this year at the least. And then we'll see whether it will be possible to do some decent deal on what's going to happen thereafter in that short period of time. I fear it will not be possible to sort out all of the issues that needs to be sorted out. And that makes me somewhat nervous that we will be in a very difficult situation with Brexit towards the end of the year. Because what we see now when they will leave formally on 3rd of January, that's just the beginning of the drama to some extent. Or a new phase in the drama, to be precise.
So you're saying once Brexit has been implemented on the 31st, that's actually when the real work starts?
Yeah, the withdrawal agreement has been a fairly difficult one to get done. But the withdrawal agreement is comparatively easy if we compare it to the agreement that was now be on the table this year.
There's certainly a changing of the political landscape in Europe with populist parties gaining a foothold in many countries, even governing in some. How concerned are you that these populist right-wing parties, if you will, are going to play a much bigger role in the years to come in Europe?
I am concerned, but when I look at what's been happening in sort of the elections last year, somewhat more than that, I think they have, for the time being, passed their peak. I don't see them disappearing, but I don't see them growing. I mean, in quite a number of elections, we've had the Greens being the green wave more than sort of a black or brown or whatever you call that particular wave. But what worries me is that we have a fragmentation of the political landscape in Europe. The big parties are no longer big. That means that it's more difficult to form governments. And that means that governance becomes more difficult, both in the different countries and on the European level.
The issue of climate change, of course, has mobilized the younger generation as well. Certainly your fellow Swede, Greta Thunberg, very much at the forefront of this Fridays for Future movement. What do you make of that?
Yeah, you see that all over. As said, if you look at quite a number of elections, primarily in Germany, in Austria, or in Switzerland, the Green Party has done very well. Not all Green parties are doing well, not in Sweden, for example. The reason for that is that I think all parties have become green. So you distinctly see a green wave in the politics of Europe. So this is going to be the most important issue on the European political agenda until some other things suddenly happen.
Carl Bildt, thank you so much for your time.